Headphone embark on an unforgettable journey in Cultivation is a gain. Headphone. What if your favorite game became your reality? In Cultivation is a Game, our protagonist is transported to a world where cultivation powers and game mechanics collide. This gripping Xianxia LitRPG Isekai tale weaves the excitement of gaming with the mystique of Eastern fantasy. Book story highlights. Game-like mechanics experience a world where levels, skills, and stats are as real as life itself. Cultivation adventure follow the journey from a novice to a powerful cultivator, navigating a world filled with challenges and opportunities. Unique Isekai twist, discover the thrill of an ordinary person thrust into extraordinary circumstances, learning to adapt and thrive. Fire perfect for fans of fantasy and gaming. Whether you're a lover of epic fantasies, a gamer, or someone who enjoys unique twists on familiar genres, this story offers a captivating blend of all three. Speaker with 3 sound waves, tune in and get lost in the world of cultivation. Speaker with 3 sound waves. Listen now and immerse yourself in a tale where every decision shapes destiny. Kill. Die. Respawn. Kai woke up in a Xianxia world with a LitRPG system. But hey, at least cultivation works like a game. Too bad the world itself is brutally real. Now, it's up to him to leverage his gaming skills, conquer deadly quests, and survive the ruthless environment to become the ultimate cultivator. Chapter 1, the soft glow from 327-inch monitors lit up Kai's face as his fingers danced across the keyboard. The 25-year-old's eyes darted between screens, each displaying different aspects of the latest MMORPG video game he was currently dominating. One showed a map of the world, another his character's inventory, and the main screen displayed the intense battle happening before him. If I flank from the east while my team distracts from the front, we can take down their defenses in under 3 minutes, Kai thought, a small smile playing on his lips. He leaned forward, his lean frame hunched over the keyboard as he executed his plan. His dark brown hair fell slightly over his blue eyes, but he didn't bother pushing it back. Every second counted in this game. Kai, you there? A voice crackled through his headset. Yeah, I'm here. Listen up, teen. I've got a plan, Kai replied, his voice calm and focused. Sarah, I need you to keep their attention on the main gate. Jake, you're with me. We are going to slip around the back and hit them where they least expect it. Got it, boss, Jake's voice chimed in. You always come up with the craziest strategies, but they somehow work. Kai allowed himself a small chuckle. That's because I don't just play the game. I think 3 steps ahead of everyone else. As his teammates moved into position, Kai couldn't help but reflect on how he approached not just this game, but life itself. Every situation was a puzzle to be solved, every interaction a move on a grand chessboard. It wasn't that he was cold or unfeeling, he just saw the world differently. Everything was a series of patterns and probabilities, waiting to be analyzed and exploited. Life is just a complex game, he mused. And I intend to win. With practiced ease, Kai guided his character through the virtual landscape, dodging enemy patrols and slipping past defensive lines. He could almost feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins, the thrill of outsmarting his opponents sending a rush of satisfaction through him. This is what he lived for. All right, we are in position, Kai whispered into his headset. Sarah, start the attacker now. On cue, explosions rocked the enemy base on his main screen. Kai watched with satisfaction as chaos erupted, the enemy players scrambling to defend against the frontal assault. Little did they know, the real threat was already inside their walls. Jake, follow my lead. We are going for their command center, Kai instructed, his fingers flying over the keys as he navigated the battlefield. As they approached the target, Kai noticed something odd. A small glitch in the corner of his screen, a flicker that shouldn't be there. He frowned, his mind immediately trying to process this unexpected variable. Probably just a graphics bug. Focus on the mission, he told himself, pushing the anomaly to the back of his mind. But the glitch persisted, growing larger with each passing second. Kai's frown deepened as he realized it wasn't just affecting one screen, but all of them. Up, guys. Are you seeing this? He asked, a hint of uncertainty creeping into his usually confident voice. Seeing what? Kai, we are kind of in the middle of a battle here. Sarah's stressed voice came through the headset. Before Kai could respond, the glitch exploded across his screens. The virtual world dissolved into a chaotic swirl of pixels and code. At the center of it all, a trident-like symbol pulsed with an eerie red light. What the hell? Kai muttered, his mind racing to understand what was happening. This wasn't like any computer error he'd ever encountered. He reached for the power button, intending to shut down his system, but froze as an overwhelming surge of energy seemed to burst from the screens. It wasn't just a visual phenomenon, Kai could feel it, like static electricity crackling over his skin. This isn't possible. Computers don't do this, his logical mind protested even as the energy intensified. Kai? Kai, can you hear me? Jake's voice seemed distant now, barely audible over the strange humming that filled the ruin. Kai tried to respond, to move, to do anything, but found himself paralyzed. The energy enveloped him, seeming to seep into his very being. His vision blurred, the world around him fading away as consciousness slipped from his grasp. His last coherent thought before darkness claimed him was, "I really hope this is just some weird dream." The first thing Kai noticed as he regained consciousness was the smell. Gone was the familiar scent of his room, a mix of coffee, electronics, and the faintest hint of sweat from long gaming sessions. Instead, his nostrils were assaulted by the nauseating smell of manure. Did someone leave my window open again? He wondered grubbily. Kai's eyes fluttered open, then immediately widened in shock. Instead of the familiar side of his bedroom ceiling, he found himself staring up at the evening sky. What the? Kai muttered, pushing himself up to a sitting position. His head swam with the movement, and he took a moment to steady himself. As his vision cleared, Kai took in his surroundings with growing disbelief. He was in the middle of a forest. Towering trees stretched as far as the eye could see. The ground was carpeted with a thick layer of moss and ferns, dotted here and there with overgrown mushrooms. This has to be a dream, Kai thought, pinching his arm hard. The sharp pain did nothing to dispel the scene before him. Okay, stay calm, he said aloud, his voice sounding oddly muffled in the large forest. Think this through logically. Kai stood up, brushing leaves and dirt from his clothes. He was still wearing the t-shirt and sweatpants he had on while gaming, but his feet were bare. First step, assess the situation, he thought, falling back on his analytical instincts. He patted his pockets, finding only his phone and wallet. The phone, unsurprisingly, had no signal. Great, Kai muttered. No shoes, no food, no idea where I am. This is just perfect. As he continued his self-assessment, Kai noticed something strange on his right wrist. A faint, glowing mark pulsed just beneath his skin. It resembled the symbol he had seen on his computer screen just before whatever this was had happened. Okay, that's new, he said, prodding at the trident-like mark. It didn't hurt, but he could feel a subtle warmth emanating from it. Focus, Kai, he chided himself. Weird glowing tattoos can wait. Need to figure out where I am and how to get back home. Kai picked a direction at random and started walking. As he moved through the forest, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The air felt different, thicker somehow, charged with an energy he couldn't quite explain. It's like I can almost feel the life in this place, he thought. Stop it, that doesn't make any sense. You just disoriented. After what felt like hours of walking, Kai's ears perked up at a sound that didn't belong to the forest, voices. Human voices. Finally, some answers, he thought, quickening his pace. As he pushed through a particularly dense patch of undergrowth, Kai found himself at the edge of a small clearing. His jaw dropped at the sight before him. A small village nestled at the foot of a towering mountain, its architecture unlike anything Kai had ever seen outside of historical documentaries or fantasy games. The buildings were constructed of wood and stone, with sweeping, tiled roofs that curved upward at the corners. People milled about, dressed in robes and carrying baskets of what looked like herbs and vegetables. No way, Kai breathed. This can't be real. He watched from the tree line for several minutes, his mind racing. The villagers spoke a language he couldn't understand, but their mannerisms and the general layout of the village reminded him of something. It's like I've stepped into one of those Xianxia novels, he thought. But that's impossible. Right? This must be some sort of prank. Deciding that standing in the forest wasn't going to get him any answers, Kai steeled himself and stepped out into the open. Almost immediately, several villagers noticed him and began pointing and talking excitedly. Here goes nothing, Kai thought as he approached the nearest person, a bald old man. Excuse me, Kai said, trying to keep his voice steady. Can you tell me where I am? The old man's eyes widened in surprise. He replied in a language Kai didn't understand, gesturing animatedly. I'm sorry, I don't. Kai began, but trailed off as he realized something incredible. While he couldn't understand the man's words, their meaning was somehow becoming clear in his mind. Young man, the old man was saying, are you lost? This is Misty Waterfall Village. If you don't know where that is, we are at the foot of Mount Celestial Ascent. Misty Waterfall Village. Mount Celestial Ascent. I've never heard of either place. These names sounded like something out of a fantasy game, not real locations. Kai struggled to keep his face neutral, not wanting to alarm the old man. Where on earth was he? Or was he even on earth anymore? The thought sent a chill down his spine. Yeah, I think I am lost, Kai said. I'm not sure how I got here. Everything's a bit of fuzzy. The old man's expression softened. Ah, a troubled mind. Come, come. Let's get you something to eat and drink. Perhaps that will help clear your thoughts. As Kai followed the elder into the village, he couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt at his deception. But he pushed the feeling aside, knowing that before he found out what was going on, caution was necessary. It's not really lying, he rationalized. I am confused and lost. I'm just omitting some details. The old man led Kai to a small tea house near the center of the village. As they walked, Kai took in every detail he could, cataloging information for later analysis. The villagers went about their daily routines, but many paused to stare curiously at the newcomer in his odd clothing. Inside the tea house, the air was fragrant with the scent of herbs and spices. The old man gestured for Kai to sit at a low table, then spoke quietly to the proprietor. Soon, a steaming cup of tea and a plate of dumplings were placed before Kai. Eat, drink, the elder encouraged. Then we can talk about your situation. Kai nodded gratefully and took a sip of the tea. The flavor was unlike anything he'd tasted before, complex, earthy, with an underlying energy that seemed to invigorate him. Focus, he reminded himself. Gather information. But be careful what you reveal. Thank you for your kindness, Kai said, setting down the cup. I'm afraid I don't remember much. My name is Kai, but beyond that. He trailed off, shrugging helplessly. The old man nodded sympathetically. I am Chen Lao. It's not unheard of for cultivators to experience memory loss after a particularly intense breakthrough or battle. Perhaps that is what happened to you. Kai's ears perked up at the familiar term. Cultivators. So, this really is a Xianxia world. Cultivators, he asked, feigning ignorance. I'm not sure what that means. Chen Lao's eyebrows rose in surprise. You don't know of cultivation. But surely, with your level of qi. He trailed off, studying Kai more closely. Fascinating. It seems your memories are more damaged than I thought. Tell me, young man, what do you know of qi? Kai pretended to concentrate, as if trying to recall something just out of reach. Qi, it sounds familiar. Something about energy. Life force. The elder nodded encouragingly. Yes, yes. Qi is the energy that flows through all living things. Cultivators are those who have learned to harness and strengthen their qi, gaining great power in the process. As Chen Lao spoke, something extraordinary happened. A translucent window suddenly appeared in Kai's field of vision, hovering in the air like a holographic display. Kai managed to keep his expression neutral, but internally, his mind was racing. A status window. Just like in the games. Either I've taken too many mushrooms again, or I'm really in a new world. The window displayed his name at the top, followed by a series of stats. Name, Kai Thorn. Level, 1. Qi, 10/10. Strength, 10. Agility, 12. Durability, 10. Intelligence, 11. Wisdom, 10. Kai's eyes widened slightly at his stats. Is something wrong? Chen Lao asked, noticing Kai's distraction. Kai quickly refocused on the conversation. No, sorry. Just trying to process everything. You said cultivators can gain great power. How does that work? As the old man launched into an explanation of the basics of cultivation, Kai listened intently while also experimenting with the status window. He found that he could interact with it using his thoughts, expanding different sections and viewing more detailed information. This is a game changer, Kai realized. With this interface, I can optimize my growth in ways others can't even imagine. And that's why many young cultivators join sects, Chen Lao was saying as Kai tuned back in. The major sects provide resources and training that can greatly accelerate one's cultivation journey. Kai nodded, filing away this crucial information. These sects, are there many of them? Oh yes, the elder replied. The largest in our region are the Azure Sky sect, known for their righteous path, and the Dark Moon sect, who are they have a reputation for being more pragmatic in their pursuits. Righteous path versus pragmatism, Kai mused. I'll need to learn more about these sects before making any decisions. Thank you for explaining all this, Kai said, bowing his head slightly. It's helping to clear some of the fog in my mind. I'm still not sure how I got here or where I came from, but at least I have a better understanding of where I am now. Chen Lao smiled. You are welcome, young man. Now, we should consider your next steps. Without your memories, you are vulnerable. With your talent, perhaps we could arrange for you to meet with one of the sect recruiters when they next visit our village. Kai considered the offer. It was tempting, a direct path into this world's power structure. But he also knew he needed more information before committing to anything. That's very generous, he said carefully. But I think I need some time to find myself first. Is there somewhere I could stay for a few days? I'd be happy to work in exchange for lodging. The old man stroked his beard thoughtfully. Yes, that could be arranged. My nephew runs the village granary. He could always use an extra pair of hands during the harvest season. And we have a small guest house where traveling cultivators sometimes stay. It's yours for as long as you need. Kai bowed deeply, genuinely grateful for the man's kindness. Thank you, Chen Lao. Your generosity is overwhelming. As they stood to leave the tea house, Kai caught his reflection in a polished metal surface. He still looked like himself, short dark hair, lean build, blue eyes, but something seemed different. There was an energy about him that hadn't been there before. Welcome to your new life, Kai, he thought to himself. Time to start playing the game. Chapter 2, Trident Mark. Kai's eyes fluttered open as he was greeted by the unfamiliar ceiling. He blinked, memories of the previous day flooding back. The forest, the village, Chen Lao's kindness, it all felt surreal. He sat up slowly, taking in his surroundings. The guest house was small but comfortable, with simple furnishings and a window overlooking the village. So, it wasn't a dream, Kai mused. I'm really in another world. As he stretched, Kai realized something surprising. He didn't feel the pang of homesickness he'd expected. Earth, with its familiar routines and technology, seemed like a distant memory. It's like I've stepped into one of my games, he thought, a small smile playing on his lips. Except now, I'm the main character. Kai had always been more at home in virtual worlds than in reality. His friends were mostly online gaming buddies, their interactions limited to voice chats and strategy discussions. As for family, Mom, he thought, a brief wave of sadness washing over him. She had passed away shortly after he finished college, leaving him alone in the world. His father had never been in the picture. Kai shook his head, pushing away the thoughts. No use dwelling on the past. This is a fresh start. Cultivation is just another game system to master. I've got my status window, and now I need to level up. Name, Kai Thorn. Level 1. Chi, 10/10. Strength, 10. Agility, 12. Durability, 10. Intelligence, 11. Wisdom, 10. Kai studied the numbers, his mind already whirring with possibilities. If this is anything like the games I've played, those stats are going to be crucial. Time to start grinding. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Kai? Chen Lao's voice called out. Are you awake? Yes, I'm up, Kai replied, quickly pulling on the simple robes that had been provided for him. He opened the door to find the old man smiling warmly. Good morning, Chen Lao said. I hope you slept well. My nephew is ready to show you around the granary if you're still willing to help out. Of course, Kai nodded. I'm grateful for your hospitality. It's the least I can do to repay you. The granary was a large, sturdy building on the outskirts of the village. A young man with a friendly face was waiting outside, waving as Kai approached. You must be Kai, he said with a warm smile. I'm Liang. Uncle Chen told me about you. Welcome to the Misty Waterfall Village. Kai smiled back and stuck out his hand. Liang looked at it oddly, seeming confused. Kai quickly realized his mistake. This wasn't how people greeted each other here. He lowered his hand and gave a small bow instead. Thanks for having me, Kai said. I'm ready to work. Liang returned the bow with a laugh. Eager, I see. Well, we've got plenty to do. Come on, I'll show you around. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. Kai threw himself into the work, helping to sort and store the newly harvested grains, repair damaged storage containers, and assist with inventory. It was hard, physical labor, something Kai wasn't used to. But as the days went by, he found himself growing stronger, more agile. His status window reflected these changes. Name, Kai Thorn. Level 1. Chi, 10/10. Strength, 11. Agility, 13. Durability, 11. Intelligence, 11. Wisdom, 10. Not bad, Kai thought, studying the screen during a brief break. But I need to start working on my chi if I want to make real progress in this world. As if the universe had heard his thoughts, an opportunity presented itself that very afternoon. Kai was carrying a heavy sack of grain when he noticed an old man struggling with a similar load. Here, let me help you with that, Kai offered, setting down his own sack and moving to assist the elder. The old man's eyes widened in surprise. Oh, thank you, young man. These old bones aren't what they used to be. As Kai picked up the sack, he noticed something odd. The old man's frail appearance seemed at odds with the way he moved. There was a fluidity, a subtle grace that spoke of hidden strength. Interesting, Kai thought. There's more to this guy than meets the eye. I'm Kai, he said, introducing himself as they walked. I'm new to the village. The old man nodded. Ah, yes. I've heard about you. The young man with no memories. I am Zhong Wei. There was something in Zhong Wei's tone that made Kai pause. A hint of a curiosity. Suspicion. That's right, Kai said carefully. I'm afraid I don't remember much about my past. Zhong Wei hummed thoughtfully. Memory is a fickle thing, young Kai. But the body remembers what the mind forgets. Tell me, have you ever heard of Qi? Kai feigned ignorance, shaking his head. Chen Lao mentioned it, but I'm not sure I understand. Ah, Zhong Wei nodded. Memory loss can be a tricky thing, especially for cultivators. Sometimes a particularly intense breakthrough or battle can scramble one's mind. He leaned forward. Would you allow me to sense your qi? It might help me understand your situation better. Kai hesitated for a moment, but then realizing there was no downsides, he nodded. Of course, elder. The old man reached out, placing a hand on Kai's wrist. Kai felt a strange tingling sensation, as if something was probing gently at his core. After a moment, Zhong Wei sat back, his expression a mix of surprise and intrigue. Fascinating, he murmured. Your qi, it's at the level of qi refining stage 1, but there's something unusual about it. Almost as if... He trailed off, lost in thought. Kai leaned forward, genuinely curious. What is it, Elder Zhong? The old man shook his head. It's hard to say for certain. But your qi feels pure, untainted. As if you've never used any cultivation techniques at all, despite clearly having a strong foundation. Well, that tracks, Kai thought wryly. Hard to have cultivation experience when you've only been in this world for a few days. Aloud, he said, I see. Is that unusual? Zhong Wei nodded slowly. Quite. Most cultivators at your level would have already begun shaping their qi according to specific techniques. Yours is like a blank slate. He studied Kai intently. Tell me, young man, would you be interested in relearning some basic cultivation methods? It might help jog your memory. Bingo, Kai thought. This is exactly what I need. But he kept his expression neutral. I would be very grateful for your guidance, Elder John. And so, after finishing their work at the granary, Kai found himself following Zhong Wei to a small clearing just outside the village. Now, Zhong Wei said, his voice taking on a more authoritative tone, Qi is the energy that flows through all living things. Cultivators learn to harness this energy to strengthen their bodies and perform incredible feats. Kai listened intently, pretending to absorb this information for the first time while his mind raced with possibilities. Zhong Wei continued, close your eyes, young Kai. Try to feel the energy within you. It may be faint at first, but with practice you can learn to sense and control it. Kai did as instructed, closing his eyes and focusing inward. To his surprise, he could indeed feel something, a warm, tingling sensation that seemed to flow through his body. Is this Qi? He wondered. It feels familiar somehow. I think I feel something, Kai said hesitantly, opening his eyes. Zhong Wei nodded, a satisfied smile on his face. Good, good. Now, try to gather that energy. Imagine it pooling in your lower abdomen. Kai concentrated, visualizing the energy as a glowing orb. To his amazement, he could feel the Qi responding to his will, slowly gathering as directed. Zhong Wei's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Impressive. You're a natural, young Kai. Or perhaps you're remembering skills you once knew. Kai feigned confusion. What do you mean? Your control is too refined for a complete novice, Zhong Wei explained. I suspect you were once a cultivator of some skill. Your current level seems to be that of Qi refining stage 1, but it's likely it was previously higher. Higher? You couldn't be more wrong, old man, Kai thought with a smile. Aloud, he said, I'm not sure. It does feel somewhat familiar. Zhong Wei nodded sagely. The mind may forget, but the body remembers. Now, let's try something more advanced. Channel your Qi to your hand. Kai complied, focusing on directing the energy as instructed. As he did so, he felt a strange tingling in his right wrist. Glancing down, he saw the mysterious mark glowing faintly. What the? Suddenly, the Qi in his hand seemed to solidify, taking on a vaguely sword-like shape. Zhong Wei's eyes widened in shock. By the heavens! Why are you recondensing Qi? Kai stared at the shimmering energy construct in his hand, his mind racing. This could be a game-changer. I've never seen anything quite like it, Zhong Wei continued, his voice filled with awe. Young man, your background must be extraordinary. You must have come from a powerful sect indeed. Kai hesitated for a moment before nodding slowly. I suppose I must. Better to let them think that, he reasoned. It might keep me safer in the long run. We must continue your training, Zhong Wei said eagerly. Your talent is too great to waste. Meet me here again tomorrow and we'll work on developing this ability further. As Kai made his way back to the guest house that evening, his mind buzzing with possibilities. Qi condensation. I can create weapons out of pure energy. The tactical advantages are enormous. He spent the next few hours experimenting with his new ability, forming various weapons and tools from his Qi. Swords, spears, shields, each came with its own advantages and drawbacks. I need to plan for every scenario, Kai thought, his strategic mind kicking into high gear. In close combat, a sword would be ideal. For ranged attacks, maybe I can form something like a bow. And a shield for defense. As he practiced, Kai couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration. This really is the ultimate game. And I intend to master it. The next morning, Kai woke up early, eager to continue his training with Zhong Wei. As he made his way to the clearing, he ran through potential scenarios in his mind. If I encounter a stronger cultivator, I'll need to rely on strategy rather than brute force. Maybe I can use the environment to my advantage. Ah, young Kai, Zhong Wei greeted him as he arrived. Ready to continue your training? Absolutely, Kai nodded, a determined look in his eyes. What's next? Zhong Wei smiled approvingly. Let's work on refining your Qi condensation skill. Try forming different shapes, focusing on stability and detail. For the next few hours, Kai practiced diligently under John Way's guidance. He formed swords, spears, shields, and even attempted more complex shapes like chains and grappling hooks. Remarkable, John Way muttered, watching Kai create a detailed dagger of pure chi. Your progress is astounding. Almost like this all comes naturally to you. Are you sure you don't remember any of your past training? Kai shook his head, maintaining his facade of confusion. No, it's all still a blank. But this feels right somehow. Your ability, your rapid progress, these are not traits of an ordinary sect, John Way nodded thoughtfully. I suspect you may have connections to one of the major powers in our world. Perhaps even one of the hidden bloodlines. Kai's mind raced with the implications. Hidden bloodlines. That could be useful information. Outwardly, he maintained a look of confused interest. Hidden bloodlines. What do you mean? John Way lowered his voice, glancing around as if afraid of being overheard. There are whispers of powerful cultivation families that operate in secret, away from the politics and conflicts of the major sects. They are all born with an ability unique to that family. This could explain your chi condensation skill. If you really do come from such a background, young Kai, you must be very careful. Such connections can be both a blessing and a curse. Despite knowing he didn't hail from such a family, Kai nodded. I understand. Thank you for the warning, Master John. As they continued their training, Kai's mind was already formulating plans and strategies. If I can convince others that I have a powerful backing, it might deter potential enemies. But I'll need to be careful not to attract too much attention. It's a delicate balance. Over the next few days, Kai split his time between working at the granary and training with John Way. His progress was rapid, impressing even the old cultivator. Your talent is truly remarkable, John Way commented one afternoon as they took a break from training. In just a few days, you've advanced to Chi refining stage 2. At this rate, you'll be ready for foundation establishment in no time. Kai nodded, allowing a small smile of satisfaction to cross his face. His status window now showed. Name, Kai Thorn. Level, 2. Chi, 25/25. Strength, 15. Agility, 17. Durability, 15. Intelligence, 12. Wisdom, 11. Not bad, he thought. But I need to keep pushing. In this world, power is everything. Master John, Kai said, an idea forming in his mind. You mentioned foundation establishment. I don't know much about it, can you tell me more? John Way's expression grew serious. Foundation establishment. It's a critical step in a cultivator's journey. It involves solidifying your chi foundation, creating a stable base for future advancement. But it's also incredibly dangerous. Many cultivators fail at this stage, their foundations crumbling under the pressure. Kai listened intently, his mind already analyzing the risks and potential rewards. I see. And what happens to those who fail? A shadow passed over John Way's face. Best case scenario. They are left unable to advance further, their cultivation stagnating. Worst case, their cultivation can backfire, crippling or even killing them. A high-risk, high-reward scenario, Kai thought. Is that what happened to you, Master John? If you don't mind me asking. John Way sighed. Yes, it is. I was once a promising disciple of the Azure Sky sect. But when I attempted foundation establishment, my foundation crumbled. I was lucky to survive, but the sect had no use for a crippled cultivator. They cast me out, and I've been living here ever since. Now, I'm no better than a Chi refining stage 5 cultivator at best. The sects aren't as benevolent as they might want people to believe. Kai's eyes narrowed slightly. I don't blame them though, cripples really don't have much use, even the righteous sects have to be pragmatic. I'm sorry to hear that, but thank you for sharing that with me. Kai gave a slight bow. Even though the decision to expel the old man was logical, Kai still felt genuinely bad for him. John Way nodded, a sad smile on his face. Learn from my mistakes, lad. Don't rush into foundation establishment until you're absolutely ready. And be wary of the major sects. They can offer great opportunities, but their favor is fickle. As Kai made his way back to the village that evening, his thoughts were focused on advancement. I need to get stronger, fast. I don't know when the first boss battle will be. But I also need to be smart about it. No point in rushing to foundation establishment if it might kill me. He spent the next few hours practicing his chi condensation skill, forming shapes and testing their durability. If I can create solid, lasting constructs, it could give me a significant advantage in combat. As he worked, Kai found himself pondering his situation. It's strange. A week ago, I was just a gamer, living a normal life on Earth. Now, I'm training to become a cultivator in a world straight out of a fantasy novel. But despite the strangeness of it all, Kai felt no real desire to return to his old life. What was there for me back on Earth, really? No family, no real friends, just games and a dead-end job. Here, I have the chance to become truly powerful. To make a real difference. He formed a perfect replica of a longsword from his chi, admiring its glowing edges. This is my world now. Chapter 3, The Attack. The forest was quiet in the early morning light as Kai sat cross-legged on a mossy rock, his eyes closed in concentration. He took slow, deep breaths, following the cultivation technique John Wei had taught him. The cool air filled his lungs as he focused on the flow of chi within his body. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. Feel the energy circulating, Kai reminded himself. He'd been practicing diligently for weeks now, gradually strengthening his chi and advancing through the early stages of cultivation. Physical labor no longer affected his stats, he would need to cultivate if he wanted to grow stronger. As he continued the breathing exercise, Kai felt a subtle shift within him. The energy flowing through his meridians seemed to pulse more strongly, gathering and condensing in his dantian. This feeling, could it be? Kai opened his eyes, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. He pulled up his status window, confirming his suspicion. Name, Kai Thorn. Level, 3. Chi, 50/50ths. Strength, 20. Agility, 22. Durability, 20. Intelligence, 11. Wisdom, 10. Chi refining stage 3, Kai murmured, satisfaction evident in his voice. Not bad for a few weeks of work. He stood up, stretching his limbs and feeling the increased vitality coursing through his body. While he knew he still had a long way to go in terms of cultivation, each advancement felt like a significant milestone. Some would assume it was mainly the physical stats that caused the disparity between the different stages in the chi refining realm, but Kai didn't think so. It's the chi, Kai nodded. The quality and quantity make the real difference. He compared his current chi to when he was at stage 2. It felt denser, more potent. He could sense it flowing through his meridians with greater force. Kai approached a tall tree. He took a stance and threw a punch, channeling chi into his fist. The bark cracked, leaving a noticeable indentation. If I was still at stage 2, that same punch would have barely scratched the surface, he mused. The physical difference isn't huge, but the impact of the chi is night and day. Holding out his hand, Kai's thoughts turned to his unique skill in this world. Time to practice chi condensation. He focused, drawing upon his chi and willing it to take shape. A faint glow emanated from his palm as the energy coalesced into a simple dagger. Kai studied the construct critically, noting its strengths and weaknesses. The blade looked sharp enough, but he could see minor imperfections in its form. More importantly, he could feel the drain on his chi as he maintained the construct. After about 30 seconds, the dagger flickered and dissipated. Better than when I started, Kai mused aloud. But still a long way from being combat ready. He spent the next hour practicing, forming various shapes and testing how long he could maintain them. Swords, shields, even simple tools like hammers each presented its own challenges. The bigger or more complex the shape, the faster it drains my chi, Kai noted. And the strength seems directly tied to how much chi I put into it. At my current level, when facing a higher stage cultivator, it is more of a parlor trick than a weapon. Still, he couldn't help but feel excited about the potential of the skill. With enough practice and as his cultivation base grew stronger, Kai knew this ability could become a formidable asset. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Kai decided to call it quits for the morning. His stomach growled, reminding him that he hadn't eaten yet. Maybe I should bring something back for the village, he thought. A little hunting practice couldn't hurt. Kai moved deeper into the forest, his footsteps nearly silent thanks to his improved agility. He kept his senses alert, listening for any signs of prey. After about 15 minutes, he heard a rustle in the underbrush ahead. Crouching low, Kai peered through the foliage. A plump pheasant pecked at the ground, unaware of his presence. Perfect, Kai thought, a plan already forming in his mind. He focused his chi, forming a thin, razor-sharp blade in his hand. Taking careful aim, Kai threw the chi construct like a throwing knife. The ethereal blade whistled through the air, striking the pheasant before it could react. Got it, Kai grinned, retrieving his prize. Let's see how the villagers like this for breakfast. Feeling quite pleased with himself, Kai made his way back toward the village. As he neared the outskirts, however, his smile faded. Something was wrong. The usual peaceful atmosphere was shattered by sounds of distressed crying, shouting, and the general chaos of panic. Kai quickened his pace, bursting into the village square. The scene that greeted him was one of devastation. Several buildings showed signs of damage, with broken windows and splintered doors. Villagers milled about in confusion and fear, some nursing injuries while others comforted crying children. What happened here? Kai demanded, approaching a group of villagers. An older man with a bandaged arm turned to him, his face pale with shock. Bandits, he spat. They came about an hour ago, like a pack of wolves. We tried to fight them off, but... He gestured helplessly at the destruction around them. A woman nearby let out a wail of despair. They took them. My daughter, my sweet Lynn, they took her and the other girls. Kidnapped. Kai's blood ran cold. How many? At least a dozen, the injured man replied grimly. Mostly young women and girls. We couldn't stop them. Damn it, Kai thought, his mind racing. I should have been here. Maybe I could have. He shook his head, pushing away the useless guilt. What mattered now was what he could do about it. Where's Zhongwei? Kai asked, scanning the crowd for the old cultivator. Over by the well, someone called out. He's hurt pretty bad. Kai hurried over, finding the elder slumped against the stone well, his robe stained with blood. Zhongwei looked up as Kai approached, his face scrunched in pain. Kai, the old man croaked. You're all right. I feared. I'm fine, Kai assured him, kneeling beside his mentor. What happened? How bad are you hurt? Zhongwei grimaced. Nothing fatal, just my pride. I tried to stop them, but... He shook his head, frustration evident in his voice. I'm useless. Can't manipulate chi past stage 5 chi refining anymore. Years ago, those bandits wouldn't have stood a chance. What stage were the bandits at? Kai's eyes narrowed. Were they all cultivators? Most were just mortal thugs, Zhongwei replied. But there were a few cultivators among them. Their leader? The old man's voice dropped to a whisper. He was at least stage 6 chi refining. Maybe even stage 7. Stage 6 or 7. That's at least 3 whole stages above me, Kai thought, his mind already calculating odds and possibilities. In gaming terms, that's like an experienced player versus a newbie. But... We can't just let them take those women, Kai said firmly. There has to be something we can do. Kai, no, Zhongwei looked at him sharply. I know what you're thinking, but it's suicide. You can't hope to defeat a stage 7 cultivator. Not at your level. Kai stood up, his jaw clenched. Maybe not in a straight fight. But I've always specialized in taking down opponents way above my level. It just takes the right strategy. He looked around the village, taking in the devastation. Children huddled in corners, crying for their missing mothers and sisters. Men nursed injuries, their faces full of shame and helplessness. Kai thought of Auntie Chen, who always slipped him extra treats after training, and young Mai Li, who'd watched wide-eyed as he showed off his chi skills. They don't deserve this, Kai thought, his resolve hardening. These people took me in, helped me when I had nothing. I can't abandon them now. I'm going after them, Kai announced, his voice leaving no room for argument. Zhongwei struggled to his feet, grabbing Kai's arm. Please, don't throw your life away. You're talented, yes, but talent means nothing against raw power at that level. Kai gently but firmly removed the old man's hand. I appreciate your concern, Master John. But I'm not going to charge in blindly. Trust me, I have experience with this sort of thing. Maybe not in real life, Kai admitted to himself. But how different can it be from raid planning? I'll scout their location, assess their defenses, and come up with a plan, Kai continued. If it looks impossible, I'll come back and we'll figure something else out. But I have to try. John Wei stared at him for a long moment, then sighed heavily. I can see there's no talking you out of this. At least take some supplies with you. And for heaven's sake, be careful. Kai nodded, a grim smile on his face. Always an. Don't worry, I'll bring them back. As he gathered some basic supplies, food, water, and a sturdy knife, Kai's mind was already making plans. First step, tracking. Then reconnaissance. Find their weaknesses, create a diversion, and extract the hostages. Simple in theory, but the execution will be tricky. He paused at the village gate, looking back at the worried faces of the villagers. I won't let you down, he silently promised. Time to put all those hours of gaming to real-world use. With a deep breath, Kai set out on the bandits' trail. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was ready to face them. After all, he'd come to this world with nothing, now he had a chance to prove his worth. Let the hunt begin, Kai thought as he disappeared into the forest. Chapter 4, Bait. Kai crouched low in the underbrush, his eyes scanning the forest floor. Broken twigs and trampled vegetation marked the bandits' trail clearly. He allowed himself a small smile. Tracking in real life isn't so different from following quest markers, he mused. Just have to pay attention to the details. As he moved through the forest, Kai's mind raced with possibilities. He knew he was severely outmatched in terms of raw power, but that had never stopped him before. In his gaming days, he'd led raid groups to take down bosses 20 levels above them. This is just another raid, Kai reminded himself. Gather intel, form a strategy, execute flawlessly. Simple. After a few hours of careful tracking, Kai heard voices ahead. He slowed his pace, moving as silently as possible. Through the trees, he caught glimpses of a small clearing with several crude tents set up. Bingo! Bandit camp located. Kai found a secluded spot with a good view of the camp. He settled in, preparing for a long stakeout. As he watched, he counted at least a dozen bandits milling about. Most looked like common thugs, but a few carried themselves with the confidence of cultivators. Okay, let's see. 2 guards on rotation, 3 by the main fire, 4 near the prisoner tent. His eyes narrowed as he spotted a large, muscular man barking orders. The other bandits seemed to defer to him. That must be the leader. Stage 6 or 7 Chi refining, according to John Wei. Way out of my league in a direct fight. As Kai continued his reconnaissance, he overheard a heated argument breaking out among a group of bandits near the prisoner tent. I say we have some fun with the girls now, a scruffy-looking man growled. Why wait? Another bandit, taller and leaner, shook his head. You idiot. They'll fetch a higher price if they are untouched. Think with your head, not your dash. Enough. The leader's voice boomed across the camp. He strode over, his presence silencing the argument immediately. We stick to the plan. No one touches the merchandise. Anyone who disobeys answers to me. Understood. The bandits mumbled their agreement, though some looked less than pleased. Kai felt a surge of disgust. These bastards want to sell these women and children as slaves, I can't let that happen. He continued observing, gathering every scrap of information he could. Guard rotations, sleeping arrangements, the layout of the camp, Kai committed it all to memory. As the sun began to set, Kai retreated deeper into the forest to plan his next move. He found a small clearing and sat cross-legged, closing his eyes to focus. Okay, let's break this down. I'm outnumbered and outpowered. A direct assault is suicide. I need something to even the odds. He opened his eyes, gazing at the darkening forest around him. An idea began to form. In games, when you're up against a tough boss, sometimes you can use environmental hazards to your advantage. What if... Kai's eyes widened as the plan crystallized in his mind. A spiritual beast. If I could lure a powerful beast to the camp, it would cause chaos. The bandits would be distracted, maybe even thinned out. That could be my opening. He nodded to himself, a smile spreading across his face. It was risky, borderline insane even. But it was the best shot he had. Now, where to find a stage 7 chi beast? Kai closed his eyes again, recalling everything he'd learned about this world's ecology. He thought back to countless hours spent studying monster spawns and boss locations in his old games. In games, powerful monsters usually inhabit specific biomes. They need territory, food sources. If I were designing this world, where would I put a stage 7 beast? He opened his eyes, scanning the forest with new purpose. The terrain sloped upward to the east, towards rockier ground. Higher elevation, more dangerous terrain. That's where I'd put the tough mobs. With a nod, Kai set off towards the rocky slopes. As he hiked, he kept his senses alert for any sign of a powerful presence. Hours passed as Kai climbed higher into the mountains. The forest thinned out, giving way to scrub and bare rock. Just as he was beginning to doubt his theory and wonder if game logic didn't apply to this world, he felt it, a prickle of energy on the back of his neck. There's something up ahead. Something powerful. Moving cautiously, Kai crept forward. As he peered around a large boulder, his breath caught in his throat. There, in a small valley below, stood a creature straight out of legend. It resembled a tiger, but far larger than any earthly feline. Its coat glowed with an otherworldly blue-green light, and Kai could see sparks of energy crackling around its massive paws. As Kai focused on the beast, a translucent window suddenly appeared in his vision. Name: Species: Thunderclaw Tigress. Level: Stage 7 Chi Refining. Type: Lightning Attribute Beast. Danger level: High. Holy shit! Kai's thoughts were cut short as the tigress's head snapped towards him. Its eyes, glowing with electric blue light, locked onto his position. A wave of pressure washed over Kai, nearly driving him to his knees. The beast's aura was overwhelming, far beyond anything he'd encountered in this world so far. Oh shit, Kai thought, his heart racing. Why did I think this was a good idea? The Thunderclaw Tigress let out a bone-shaking roar, electricity arcing between its fangs. Kai's mind raced, searching for a way out of this potentially fatal situation. Okay, don't panic, he told himself, trying to steady his breathing. Think this through. What would I do if this was a game? The massive beast began to stalk towards him, each step sending small shockwaves through the ground. Kai's eyes darted around, looking for any advantage he could use. I can't outfight it, and I probably can't outrun it for long. Need to outsmart it somehow. He spotted a narrow crevice in the giant rock face behind him. It looked just big enough for him to squeeze through, but far too small for the tigress. That's my out. But I need to time this perfectly. Kai took a deep breath, steeling himself for what came next. He locked eyes with the approaching beast, then made a show of stumbling backward in fear. Nice kitty, he said, voice quavering. Good kitty. You don't want to eat me. I'm all skin and bones, see? The tigress growled, lightning crackling along its flanks. It crouched low, preparing to pounce. Almost there. Just a little closer. At the last possible second, as the beast launched itself towards him, Kai dove to the side. He rolled to his feet and sprinted for the crevice, hearing the thunderous impact of the tigress landing behind him. Kai squeezed into the narrow opening, jagged rock scraping his sides. He pushed deeper into the crevice, heart pounding in his ears. A deafening roar echoed through the rocks, followed by the sound of massive claws scrabbling at the entrance. Kai pressed himself as far back as he could, watching sparks fly as the beast tried to force its way in. After several tense minutes, the tigress finally withdrew, letting out a frustrated growl. Kai, seeing the giant rock hold, allowed himself a breath of relief. Okay, step 1 complete. I found a stage 7 beast. Now I just need to figure out how to lure it back to the bandit camp without getting myself killed in the process. No pressure. He peered out of his rocky shelter, watching the Thunderclaw tigress pace back and forth. Its eyes still glowed with predatory focus, fixed on the crevice where Kai hid. This might take a while, Kai thought, settling in for a long wait. But hey, at least the hard part's over, right? As he huddled in the cramped space, Kai's mind was already working on the next phase of his plan. He'd need to be smart, cautious, and more than a little lucky to pull this off. Just another day in the life of an Isekai protagonist. Chapter 5, by order of the Jarl, stopped right there. Kai's heart raced as he sprinted through the forest, the thunderous footsteps of the beast echoing behind him. Branches whipped at his face, leaving stinging scratches, but he didn't dare slow down. He'd waited in the crevice for hours, carefully observing the tigress's patterns. When it finally wandered far enough away, distracted by a low-level spiritual beast that accidentally wandered into its territory, Kai had seized his chance. He'd slipped out of the rocky shelter and taken off running, purposely making noise to draw the beast's attention. This is just like kiting a high-level mob, Kai thought as he ran. I need to keep it chasing me without letting it catch up. The beast roared, the sound reverberating through Kai's bones. He risked a glance back and immediately wished he hadn't. The creature was massive, easily twice his height, and it was quickly gaining on him. Okay, time to use the chi condensation skill, Kai decided. Let's see how creative I can get with this. As the beast lunged forward, Kai focused his chi, willing it to take shape beneath his feet. A glowing platform materialized in midair, just as he leapt upward. He landed on the ethereal surface, wobbling slightly but managing to keep his balance. The beast skidded to a halt below, confusion evident in its glowing red eyes. It swiped at Kai with its massive paw, but he was just out of reach. Not so tough now, are you? Kai taunted, allowing himself a small grin. Taunting giant monsters probably isn't the smartest move, but I have to admit, it is fun. The beast roared in frustration, rearing up on its hind legs. Kai's eyes widened as he realized it could almost reach him at this height. Time for a little park hour, he thought, focusing his chi once more. Just as the beast's claws were about to connect, Kai leapt sideways. Another chi platform materialized, providing a brief foothold. He pushed off immediately, creating a series of glowing stepping stones in the air. The beast gave chase on the ground, its massive form crashing through the underbrush. Kai kept moving, alternating between running on the ground and creating aerial platforms when needed. Every few moments, the tigress would launch itself into the air, massive paws swiping at Kai as he leapt. Each time, Kai barely managed to twist away or create a new platform just out of reach. Too slow. The beast roared in frustration, electricity crackling along its fur. It redoubled its efforts, closing the gap inch by inch. This is actually kind of fun, Kai mused as he vaulted over a fallen log. In a terrifying, might die at any moment kind of way. As they neared the bandit camp, Kai noticed a change in the beast's behavior. Its pursuit became less focused, its head turning towards the scent of the camp. Looks like it worked, Kai thought, relief flooding through him. Time to let this oversized furball be their problem. He created one last cheap platform, using it to propel himself onto a nearby tree. From his perch, Kai watched as the beast stalked towards the camp, its earlier chase forgotten. Now, let's have a good look at what we are dealing with, Kai thought, his breath finally steadying as he observed the bandit camp below. The bandits continued their celebration, oblivious to the danger lurking at the edge of their camp. Hey, Wen-jian. Pass me another bottle, one bandit called out, his words slurring slightly. A burly man with an ugly scar across his cheek tossed a bottle to his companion. Here you go, Liu. But don't blame me when your head's pounding tomorrow. Liu caught the bottle clumsily, nearly dropping it. Who cares? We've got plenty to celebrate. That village was a gold mine. Another bandit, a thin man with a bow slung across his back, chimed in. Yeah, and the ladies ain't bad either. Bet we can fetch a good price for 'em in the city. Near the fire, a group of bandits had started a dice game. Shouts of triumph and groans of defeat mingled with the crackling of the flames. Ha! Read 'em and weep, boys, a bandit with an eye patch crowed, scooping up a pile of coins. His opponent, a younger man with a wispy mustache, slammed his fist on the ground. Damn it, One Eye. You've got to be cheating. One Eye grinned, revealing several missing teeth. Ain't my fault you can't spot a good bluff, kid. Maybe you should stick to robbing grannies. The other bandits roared with laughter, causing the young man's face to flush red with embarrassment and anger. As the night wore on, the bandits' revelry grew louder and more boisterous. Some began to argue over trivial matters. I'm telling Awaye I'm the one who knocked out that old geezer in the village, a heavy-set bandit insisted, swaying slightly on his feet. His companion, a man with a long braid, scoffed. In your dreams, Fat John? You were too busy stuffing your face with stolen food. I saw the whole thing. Fat John's face contorted with anger. You calling me a liar, Braid Boy? Maybe I am. What you gonna do about it? Braid Boy taunted, puffing out his chest. Just as it seemed the two might come to blows, a voice cut through the noise. Enough. Save your energy for something useful, you idiots. The bandits immediately fell silent, turning to face the speaker. A tall, imposing man stepped out of the largest tent, his presence instantly demanding respect. Even from his hiding spot, Kai could sense the power radiating from this man. It's him again. Their leader. The leader surveyed the camp with cold eyes. We move out at first light. Make sure the prisoners are ready for travel. And keep your wits about you. We are not out of the woods yet. As the bandits scrambled to follow their leader's orders, a low, menacing growl suddenly echoed through the camp. The beast Kai had led there had finally made its move. In a blur of blue-green fur, the creature burst into the clearing, its massive jaws snapping shut around the nearest bandit before anyone could react. Screams of terror and pain filled the air as chaos erupted. It's a thunderclaw tigress, someone yelled. Quick, get your weapons. Kai watched as the battle unfolded. The thunderclaw tigress was a whirlwind of destruction. Its glowing coat lit up the night, sparks flying with each movement. Long, curved fangs crackled with electricity, and its claws left scorched gouges in the earth with each step. The bandits, caught off guard and many still drunk, struggled to mount an effective defense. Some swung wildly with swords or axes, while others fired arrows that mostly missed their mark. This is my chance, Kai thought, his eyes darting between the battle and the group of prisoners. While they are distracted, I can free the women and get them out of here. Keeping low to the ground, Kai began to make his way around the edge of the camp. He used his chi condensation skill to create small distractions, the rustling bush here, a floating pebble there to keep attention away from his movements. As he approached the prisoners, Kai couldn't help but continue observing the battle. The thunderclaw tigress moved with a fluid grace that belied its massive size. It effortlessly dodged most attacks, retaliating with swift, brutal strikes of its own. I am glad I never engaged it in battle. I definitely wouldn't stand a chance. Kai let out a sigh of relief. The bandit leader had joined the fray. He wielded a long, curved blade that glowed with an eerie blue light. Each swing left trails of frost in the air, and where it struck the thunderclaw tigress, patches of ice formed on its fur. Interesting. Some kind of ice attribute weapon. Definitely need to watch out for that. Finally reaching the group of prisoners, Kai quickly ducked behind the tent they were tied to. He peeked around the corner, making sure the coast was clear before calling out to the women. Pest. Over here, he whispered urgently. The women's heads snapped towards him, eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. Kai, one of them gasped. It was Mai Li, the village chief's daughter. Is that really you? Kai nodded, pressing a finger to his lips. Shush. Yes, it's me. I'm here to get you out, but you need to stay quiet and follow my instructions. Understand? The women nodded. Kai quickly set to work, using a small chi blade to cut through their bonds. As he worked, he kept one eye on the ongoing battle, ready to create a distraction if needed. All right, he whispered once they were all free. We are going to sneak out of here while they are distracted. Stay low, move quietly, and whatever you do, don't look back. Head straight for the village. Got it. But what about you? Mai Li asked, concern evident in her voice. Kai managed a reassuring smile. Don't worry about me. I'll be right behind you. Now go. As the women began to slip away into the darkness, Kai turned his attention back to the battle. The thunderclaw tigress was holding its own, but the bandit leader was proving to be a formidable opponent. Suddenly, the leader's eyes flickered towards the escaping prisoners. His face contorted with rage. The prisoners? They are escaping, he roared, parrying a swipe from the thunderclaw tigress. You? Go after them, he ordered, pointing at one of the bandits who had been hanging back from the main fight. Damn it, Kai thought. So close. He turned to the fleeing women. Go. Run as fast as you can. I'll hold them off. As the women disappeared into the forest, Kai steeled himself for what was to come. He turned to face the approaching bandit, his mind already racing with possible strategies. Okay, Kai. Time to put all that gaming experience to the test. Let's see what we're up against. As he focused on the bandit, a familiar translucent window appeared in his vision. Name, Feng Lei. Level 4. Chi, 75/75. Strength, 27. Agility, 23. Durability, 25. Intelligence, 13. Wisdom, 12. Not as tough as I thought. But still a level above me. This is going to be tricky. I just hope all those years kickboxing comes in handy.